Okay, hello class. We are on weekly update 13. Heading for home, around the corner, ready for your last module, last chapter of the last book. A few comments from last week from my notes. I looked back and I forgot to mention a couple folks last week. So Clarissa mentioned in the discussion that how proud she was of herself, of how much she's learned, and that she never really thought of herself as a math person. And I can't believe I forgot to say this, but Clarissa has become like my answer key for this class. So yes, you should be proud of yourself. So if someone emails me like, hey, I think there's an error on this page, I'm like, well, did Clarissa email me already? And then if she did, it's an error. Yeah, I made it, and she caught it. Otherwise, I have to go do the work myself if I haven't. Then the other one I wanted to mention was Dana May, and I think her name comes up a lot every time, but she had a couple comments in her discussion. And I just also wanted to say, every time I see her homeworks, she's such a good visual and can display what she sees in her head visually with art. Every time I open hers, I'm like, damn, that is so clear and so easy to see. Like, you'll see this week, if you check, when you start studying for finals, there's a couple names to look at. And in particular, this week, Dana May drew a hand with the normal vectors off of it. And it's easy to see those things in 3D, but how she draws it in 2D is just perfect. It's beautiful. It's such a clear explanation. So we'll get to more of those when we get into this week's activities. Another thing I forgot to say last week that I had been thinking about during the week was, I remember one time seeing a billboard driving along the road, I think it was somewhere on I-95, and it said something like, what have you done for your marriage today? And I thought, that's a good question, a good point. And I forget the sponsor, it was maybe some religious group, maybe the Catholic group. And but anyway, that stuck with me. Like, I often find myself saying that to myself, like, gosh, it's 8 o'clock, what have I done? Like, I've taken care of this dog, I've fed her, taken her out, but like my husband, this is the most important person in my life. Okay, I sit down after dinner, thanks for making dinner. And we're always so polite about, like, because this person doesn't have to do these sorts of things, make dinner, do the dishes, like, so we always say thank you after that. But here, can I rub your shoulders? Can I rub your hand? Whatever, you had a rough day. And so the reason I'm telling you all that is, well, good, you can do that with your friends and family and significant folks in your life. But I want you to ask yourself this question, and there's only a couple more weeks, but what have you done for your team today? And so could that just be texting them and cheerleading, or hey, can we get together to study, or here's our last module, let's check out these activities together. So kind of keep that in mind. What have you done for your team? And you can carry that into other classes, but just so it's just a thoughtfulness and attention, mindfulness. Okay, next thing, a couple people last week had also mentioned how proud they are of how much they've learned. Well, check this out. Look, if we were in a regular class, we'd be doing a textbook like this big. That's almost 8.5 by 11, that many pages. This is how much you guys know. It's in your heads, but more importantly, it's in your bodies. Like, you understand from the activities, the embodied pedagogy that we're doing, embodied learning, that it's in you now, and you got this. Okay, a few details on the final, and then we'll go into this week's activities and challenges. So this final exam, I've mentioned a few things. You get a study guide, 2 pages of notes. If I was studying, I'd go over my old quizzes, look through the old samples and examples. Every module now has a bunch of those. Some key people that I think will be good ones to check out, I've mentioned these names a lot, like Griffin and Grant. Really nice, clear displays, usually on the calculations. And Grant and Clarissa tend to do every problem, even ones that, like, it's just choose 2 out of 4. Well, if you want to look at other ones on that page, those folks will completed them. I've mentioned the visualizations, Dana May's drawing and color coding and artwork, beautiful on activities, but also the calculations. Patrick has some really nice interpretations and also visualizations that he does, not drawings, but like camera shots of his work. And then Christy, Kelly, and Aaron are some other ones that I really remember their calculations being just very clear, like line by line explanations. So when you're going through the samples and examples, those are good names to check out. The old quizzes that you have, you can go back through, but another place for concept questions. So our final exam is going to be concepts, about 30 concept questions. And again, similar level or flavor of what you've had on your quizzes, but also the end of every chapter, right, has plenty of those concept reviews with the answers. You can check your work right there, the answers at the end of the chapter. So please check out review on those. And then the calculation problems, to practice those, there will be, again, about 30-ish concept questions. That's the first part of the final exam. They're 1 point each. And then there'll be maybe about 12, 13, 14 calculation problems. They're 5 points each. Those are similar again to the calculation problems that you practice in the practice pages in your journals that you have on your quizzes. Obviously get plenty of calculation practice with the challenges as well. So those 5 points each, but you have to show your work on those. And the format of the final, the mechanism is that we're going to have a 3-day window where you can take your final exam. You decide what time works. So that's going to be Friday. What is the date on that? Friday the 23rd. So it's going to start at 8 in the morning on Friday, the window. And the window will close that Sunday, the 25th at 11:59 p.m. So then you can decide what works in your schedule with your other exams, with your work, all the other stuff you have going on in your busy lives, to pick a 2-hour window. And you probably should give yourself a little time before and after just to relax and meditate, calm down, and get all your stuff together. So suppose you decide that you want to take it Saturday at 3 p.m. Then you're going to go into Oaks. You're going to start it. Oaks then starts its timer. At after 2 hours have elapsed at 5 o'clock, Oaks will auto submit if you haven't submitted already. It's cut you off. And then at that point, you have a window, a 15-minute window to go submit in the Dropbox, which it points you to, as you've been doing all your homework, to submit your work. And you have to show work on every single calculation problem. If you don't, it won't get graded. And this is going beyond me to also to an assessment committee. Again, I've warned you that folks are kind of concerned with COVID and cheating. And so you want to make sure that you're being careful. And the best way to do that here is just to show your work. Now, on some problems though, we've done like, well, in your challenges this time in some of your homeworks, you do a great job. Like you have to model it, but then it gets to a nasty integral and we use a tech tool. That's fine. You just have to show the work. In this case would be that you've modeled the double integral, or you've modeled the integral that's going to do the curtain integral or the arc length or something like that. And then say that you use the tech tool and here's the output. Some of them you can do by hand. I mean, many of them we will. And you can always check your work with the tech tool. That's fine, but you have to show your step-by-step work and your thought process. And then on the on the calculation questions, you can probably guess, I mean, go chapter by chapter, what are the main highlights? Well, certainly there's going to be like a critical point problem. Certainly there's let's see, what else in the book? Oh, we did global extrema there. I can guarantee you there'll be a Lagrange multiplier problem. You have to do an optimization with that method. Oh, what else? We did gradients and derivatives there. So like directional derivatives. Remember the gradient maximizes. That's the steepest ascent. So it would maximize any direction that you could go. The gradient would be the one that gives you steepest ascent. Oh, we did the d-test. Like take a critical point, figure out with the d-test which one is it, local, max, min, saddle point, or neither. Oh yeah, the end of that book, chapter 4, we had double integrals. So we got volumes or areas with double integrals. And then in this book, we've done space curves and plane curves. So we did linear ones, and then we have some curvy ones. And there's some things we can do with the curvy ones that are interesting, like we can get tangents, which show the direction of motion. The normal vector always points orthogonal to that in towards the curve. We could get curvature. So all those formulas, you don't have to memorize them. Those will be on your 2-page sheet, the ones that you need to apply. But you want to be efficient because you only have 2 hours again. So it is timed, and that's the stinky part that we have to do it that way. But I think that should give you plenty of time for just these, 10 to 15 calculation problems. Oh, you'll have a curtain integral. What else? Oh, we just did surface area. And then you're about to do vector fields. There may be 1 or 2 problems from vector fields of chapter 3. What else can I say on the final? Study with your teammates. Again, share. I'm wanting us to, as a team, lift each other up, and everybody's getting A's and B's. So think about your team and what you can do to help them. Maybe that's working together to make a 2-page note that's going to be very clear and efficient, easy to find stuff and scan. Okay, let's move on then. A couple more reminders. Course evaluations, those are due. Please do those for all your classes, but definitely for this one. I appreciate the feedback, and all these things also go to folks above us, and they help make decisions about not necessarily hiring and firing, but like course, who gets to teach which classes in the future and which formats. So people read these and we use them. And I personally really appreciate any comments, things I can do to make this class better. I'll be working hard over the summer refining this one. Okay, module 7 is coming up. This is our last chapter of the book. It's on vector fields, some really cool, totally different ways to think. So we've done a lot of vector functions. These are ones where every point in 3D space actually has a vector coming out of it. And there's cool applications. You're going to have a good time thinking about those applications. The first half of the chapter is more conceptual, and then the second half has some of the calculations that we're going to do. Okay, however, to make sure we're ready for the final, the module 7 has the usual challenges, but they're optional. So you can do them with your team, you can do them by yourself or not, just decide if you want to get ready and start studying for the final exam. So optional to do the challenge problem, it's optional bonus in module 7. So if you'd rather use that time and just start prepping and working through the final exam. Oh, there is a module 8 in there which has final review. So it just has a practice PDF file that you can pull down and practice calculation problems. It'd be a good thing to go over. So if you choose not to do the bonus, or you have not to do the bonus challenge problem, and you have time, you should definitely work through that PDF file of the final calculation problems. Okay, then shout outs for this week. So activities, some ones that I dumped into the samples and examples and really liked. Liam made a comment that I liked. He was talking about in his activities that any surface, so I think I was talking about the hand surface, if you zoom in close enough, it looks like a tangent plane. Then he was thinking that, like, well, there's a lot of these. So you could actually think of this surface as a quilted approximation. It's just a bunch of little flat tangent planes all stitched together to make the surface. And then as those little quilt sections get pinched smaller and smaller, we're getting a better approximation. So it's a good way of visualizing that quilted idea. Then let's see, I put the linelet font activity. I really like the way Aaron, Christy, and Dana May did this, because they took their original name in totally cursive and then just put a number of dots on it. Oh, Grant did this one too. Grant did a nice job where, like, the terrible approximation where he only used like 5 dots to connect and then just connected, it didn't look like a Grant at all. But when he added like 30 dots or something, then the little arc lengths between those made more sense and got better to looking like a Grant. Okay, then on Ellie's, I really liked, she did the art one where she used Calcplot 3D and made a really neat surface. So check hers out. She also had nice explanations for the matching, as did Christy, and really nice explanations for why she chose what in the matching, her process of elimination to narrow it down. So she did a nice job with the flag curtains. Griffin, excellent work. He also did the art one where he did use Calcplot 3D and made some really cool. He described it as like smoke blowing, like a wall of smoke moving up. He did the flag and the page curtain ones with really nice drawings in his by hand. Patrick Puck did he did the flag and the page curtains, but his was his visualization, rather than drawing those like say Grant or Dana May, he did really nice. He took a cardboard box So like the corner of the room, but they made the cardboard box and has a Z, X, Y, and then put little pieces of paper in there and then took a picture of it each time. So it was very clear what he was doing and then you would understand it. Clarissa did the art one as well. So several really neat RUV surfaces. And she also did an excellent job taking a picture, explaining the normal vector. So this was a common mistake. I noticed that many people say you had the point on a hand. And for some reason, I saw a lot of people have pencils like this as normal vectors. But remember, a normal vector, normal means orthogonal, perpendicular. Those all mean kind of, those are three words mean the same thing. So if I had a point on the surface, the normal vector, which is normal to the tangent plane. So I zoom in, imagine a little, Liam's idea of a little quilt, patch of the quilt right there, makes a flat surface, a linear tangent plane. And then the normal vector is the normal vector of the plane, right? Remember at A, B, C that we learned back in book 1, the first book we used, it is orthogonal to the plane. So you can define a plane by its normal vector because you are all vectors orthogonal to the normal vector. Normal to the normal vector makes the plane. Okay, so many of you were showing kind of confusing R of T's tangent vector. So remember space curve. At any point I step on that space curve, I have a tangent vector gives the direction of motion. Many of you got that from the Vandal problem that you chose when you did that. But you also have in that space curve, I stop at a point, besides the direction of motion, you have the normal vector, which points orthogonal to the tangent vector. Well, there's infinitely many ways to be orthogonal to the tangent vector, but there's only one that points towards the curve. Remember, that was like leaning on your motorcycle. So make sure you understand the difference between the normal vector for a surface, an R of UV surface, and the normal vector for an R of T planar space curve, right? So they're both orthogonal, but they're in different ways, right? So think about what it means to be through a curve or through a surface. Okay, Dana May, she did the scavenger hunt problem. I really liked what she did on that one. And then her drawings, again, if you're having trouble with this idea of a normal vector, what that looks like, check out Dana May's drawings. Beautiful. She has the hand and the normal vectors at the different points, all just scaled for perspective and everything. You can see it perfectly. Okay, and then the last person to shout out on the activities is Grant. His explanations of the matching and the flag and the curtain integrals was excellent too. Okay, calculations. I dumped a lot of folks in there too as well, always for different reasons. So let's see. Christy Griffin, Ian Kelly, well, present nice and clear explanations. And then Grant, Cameron, Clarissa, I feel like they did every problem. So if there was one you skipped because you thought that one looks harder, but you're curious, you want to get ready to study. Aaron did a really nice job too. And Aaron, you had a comment about, oh, yes, I wanted to talk about this one. There was a problem that a couple people have mentioned or emailed about. This was page 192, number 1. It was a tangent. You had to find the tangent plane at a point. And in number 1, it was kind of like a sneaky little trick question. It said, find the equation of the tangent plane at the given point. I gave you a surface, R of UV for number 1, and that surface was itself linear. So if you looked at the equation, R of UV for number 1, that equation there is linear, and you can tell because it's just linear in all the U's and V's, which means because it's linear, it's a plane. And so the answer is the tangent plane is the plane, right? So at any point, the tangent plane is the plane. So you could have just looked at that and sort of done a concept check on that. But Erin went through and did the calculations, and she was confused because she got a plane that wasn't quite the same as my answer. She had like a -12 instead of a 0. And so I just want to say, Erin, it was just a sign error. You had like a minus, and you still kept treating it as a minus. Okay, so then on to the challenges. So let's see, 2 groups did the roller coaster problem. Group 1 was Clarissa, Allie, and Grant. Really beautiful job. This looked like nice teamwork to me. They color coded each section of the track. This one would be a wild roller coaster. They did a fantastic job. The other group that did it was Grace and Savannah. They did the roller coaster problem. They talked about the challenge of like getting those 3 sections of the track to match up. Like they had an idea for the first track, and maybe it ended here. And then the second track, they had an idea, but figuring out how to get those to come together. And that, you're right, that's difficult. Some trial and error, some logic. You could add some parameters and change, the X direction that it's moving, the Y, maybe somehow the Z, and getting them to line up. Well, group one did that beautifully. They got their sections of the track, and the roller coaster, like I said, it looks like a fun, crazy fun one. Should be at Disney or something. These guys should actually do this. Send it off. They also did every level, that problem level 2, 3, 4, and 5. Which ended with, I think level 5 was something about, well, you had to add a section. So now they had 4 sections of the track. What are the curtain intervals associated with those? So they actually had 4 curtain areas that they then summed up. And of course, they could model those curtain areas using the standard integral Z times arc length. Beautifully done modeling those. And then those were nasty, so they had to use a tech tool and got their answers that way. So really nice job, beautifully done. And maybe I'll just share the screen for a second, because I think I might still have those up just to show you the picture. One. Yeah, okay, so here they are. We get to the top of the page. Yeah. All right, so here's some of their ideas. They start off with a circle, and then they're going to show how they move around with make sort of a crown surface. And then again, always color coded each section of the track. And now they start kind of changing things up a bit from the top view and side view. Okay, that was level 1. Level 2, they add a 4th section, so an orange here. So check out this track now. Going along the road, because it was leaving like spins and loops. Pretty wild. And oh yeah, beautiful, right? That's a beautiful picture of what their curtain areas are for this track. Okay. Then every other group, so this is group 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, chose the Vandal problem. And a couple ones I wanted to point out was group 4. This is Team PBS, Cameron, Liam, and Puck. Excellent job. Did levels 2, 3, and 4 on this one. As usual, really clear the steps and the methods. And what's neat to see their teamwork is they weren't able to work out their schedules to meet synchronously. So they did it asynchronously. And they said they each came upon it separately, and then they would look and compare. And in comparing, they had to really figure out the differences. Why, even maybe they got to the same, okay, they thought it was vehicle 2, but why? They had different explanations. And working that out really got them to also think about the final question, which was like, well, how confident are you in this answer? Could it hold up in a court of law? And they approached that again in a really scientific way. So they came up with so many more, this vehicle was so many more times as likely. In the second, I think the next level up was like, suppose the time frames were off just a little bit, would it still have been car 2? So just a really nice scientific way of answering that one. Beautiful work. Excellent team report. And the other thing is, I feel like the extra effort that they put in this really pays off in, like, they're already studying for the final by doing that. Like, they totally understand intimately pieces of this. Like, what does it mean to be in a direction of motion for a particular curve? How could we speed up, reparameterize? That was also group 1 did that, like in their roller coaster challenge, you had to reparameterize. So you're learning so many things by doing this. It's great to see that. Okay, group 2, this was Aaron and Keegan. Really nice, clear visualizations, what they were doing in theirs. And then group 3, the Fantastic 3, it was nice to see those folks back. That was Olivia, Dana, May, and Will. Excellent job on the Vandal problem. Group 5, I really liked, this is Griffin, Thomas, and Kelly. I really liked they showed the Vandal problem from several different angles and displays, like from the top, to really try to convince the jury in the court case that why they thought it was a particular vehicle. And I also liked it. their mention of, I think it was Kelly said that they got heated on a heated discussion about direction of motion. Okay, and then lastly, I just like the teamwork of this group, Mac, Christy, and Ellie. That seemed like that you all did a really nice job with the teamwork on the vandal problem. Okay, well, that's it. So have fun now with our last chapter. And again, congratulations. Look how much you know. It's in you. That's awesome. And y'all are going to do a great job acing this final. So it's time to start budgeting and preparing. And what have you done for your team today?